to share all your wisdom today with all of us. Mate, if you don't mind us sort of taking back to the start, so coming out of school, how did your journey look from coming from school all the way into sort of where you are today?
From school, so when you mentioned that, and yeah, g'day everyone this morning, and thanks for having me on. This is something I've been looking forward to. But mate, back to school, I remember some career advice I got when I was in year 10, 11 from the career advisor. I wanted to go and be a diesel mechanic, mainly driven by my cousin who was one, and he was making an absolute packet at the time. So there's always been a motivator there to earn a few dollars. But the funnel of the school I was at was go to university, and if in doubt, go to university. So when did that, if you're looking for just a quick 5-minute background on my path from then to now, when did a marketing degree, but spent a year out before university, and part of that was actually spent on a farm in rural New South Wales. I was going to be a commodities trader with my agricultural economics degree and trade fun, exciting things like wheat and cotton on the international exchange. Don't know what the hell I was thinking. And towards the end of that, did 3 or 4 months, or 6 months actually, in Paddington, up in your patch with George Hagelis at Ray White Paddington. So parents had a real estate business, so I had some exposure to that from an early age. Went to uni, finished that, went earth moving, and gravitated back to real estate when I think my parents' property manager flew the coop at very short notice, and there was a call made to the Northern Territory. Stu, we need a property manager. Do you reckon you can come back and give us a hand? And I was pretty well ready to get the hell out of the Territory at the time too. And that's where really, I suppose, my real estate career kicked off.
Interested in a couple of things you said there. So your parents had a real estate business, but it wasn't necessarily your first instinct was to join that out of school?
No, it wasn't. No, I think that career advice was drummed into me pretty hard. Go to university. You need a degree. You need something to fall back on. Which Denzel Washington's got a great motivational speech about falling forward, not falling back. But at the time that sounded good to me, and it wasn't a bad way to spend 3 or 4 years, to be honest. Up at Armidale, for those who've spent time pretending to go to lectures and shoots, completely hungover, doing it really just to play rugby on a Saturday. It was a great period of my life, and I'm doing business now with people I met there. So the network you leave that university college environment with is awesome. But no, real estate wasn't the first port of call at all. But as I worked my way through the agricultural economics degree, economics so dry, just numbers and statistics. And there was one subject we called Hebrew scriptures, because it literally looked like you were reading an ancient manuscript, but it was apparently maths and statistics. I swapped out to a marketing major, and then I enjoyed the psychology behind marketing. How do you make a product appeal to someone, analyze them through that purchasing decision-making process, post-purchase decision-making, and that just made sense in my mind. And then the people part of the business has come naturally as well. So I moved up to Ray White Paddington and met the team up there, and I was the office rouseabout, hammering up signs for George, doing whatever it took to keep him happy, which was everything. And it was a long list. But there were guys there who were really encouraging and said, look, I think you've got a really long career in this business. You should give it a crack. So that planted the seed, I think, and then the opportunity arose. Like, there'd be a lot of people out there who are only in real estate because their parents were, and there's a lot of others who just hit dead ends, and it was the next thing to try, and it worked out. And for me, it was the parents were in the business.
Yeah, we joke about that a lot, that real estate's almost like a second chance occupation. It's kind of the occupation you do when your first occupation hasn't really planned out. Do you ever have any regrets, mate, that you're not out there trading some wheat on the international market?
Nah, not at all. Not at all. Like, I know now that I'm sort of, oh, well, crikey, 18 years out of university, the guys who did those degrees and stayed in it, I can see their brains just work different to mine. You know, they're up at 4 a.m. looking at the markets overseas, and they're really excited about it. There's actually a strong correlation between guys in that game and guys who love betting on horses and greyhounds as well. So I can't, gambling is not something I have any interest in whatsoever. So yeah, I'm not wired in that way. It just takes a while to find your place, I think, and you've got to go and try things, give it a crack. You hit a junction in the road, go in another direction, and eventually you find your way.
So you came into the family business in PM originally. When did you tip your toe into sales?
When like PM was I suppose a means to an end. We hired someone into that. So after about 9 months, I stepped into the sales part, and pretty quickly, you're in property management. You can work that out reasonably quickly. And once again, it's a very process-driven role. Like the transaction period's so short, and most of it is management. It's not really selling. So the selling part I leaned into. But I do remember one key sale where my father, Rob, who works in the business now as well, he said, look, I think you ought to have a crack at sales. Can you give me a hand on this one? And I can't remember the address. I can't remember the vendor's name. But I do remember my cut of the commission was $6,135. And the check got dropped on the desk. And I think that lit a fire that hasn't gone out just yet. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Let's do more of these. And away we go.
Can I just point, is that such a real estate statement? I can't remember the vendor's name, can't remember the address, but I can remember the exact dollar amount that the check was that landed on my table.
I could, if I thought for 10 minutes, I could remember some of the details. It was Capital Road, Tony May.
That's right, mate. You made the point. There's no need to unwind it. Yeah, no need to unwind it. So from your point of view, Stu, you would have seen a lot of guests coming and going. You've seen people come in, people that have gone out. I really like asking this question. What do you think the common ingredient for those that don't succeed or that don't make it? What's the common reason why that happens?
I actually was thinking about this last week. I was walking through a shopping centre in Tamworth, and I saw an individual who gave real estate a crack for 6 months and then left. And I was working in the same business at the time, and I remember I could see her hitting roadblocks, and she was trying to figure it out. I think firstly she didn't know how to ask for help. I think there was a blockage there to say, this isn't clicking in my mind, like, can someone help me? I think she was able to ask that question. And then a few times when I just couldn't help but swing over and go, hey, how's that deal going? Like, perhaps if you bring this guy and say that, the face turned to stone, and it was like they couldn't put themselves in a position of vulnerability, maybe where they didn't have a piece of knowledge that maybe they needed. So you got to be teachable, you got to be coachable, because like every day we go into listing presentations and appraisals, and you either get it or you don't. But I think every time you could have got it if you did it differently, if you followed up differently, if you asked different questions, if you got right through to the back end of what's behind the vendor's motivation, how they're going to pick their agent. So being coachable, but then you got to stick it out. Like, to say I'm going to give real estate 6 months and see how it's going to go, it's not going to work.
Yeah. When did your point come when you started kicking goals? Like, you started getting some momentum? Because momentum's such a funny thing, right? Like, when you don't have it in real estate, it feels like you can never get it. And when you have it, it feels like you're never going to lose it. When did you start to get, traction, for lack of a better word, or maybe a better way to frame it is, when did you start getting more than what you're putting out? So you were getting people calling in, asking for you, and opportunity was presenting itself that way.
April 2023.
Okay. April, is there a particular reason why April 2023?
Seriously, like I think, and this might be a bit of a long answer, but I'm probably 13, 14 years into my career. I did 6 months up at Brisbane before university, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go and do a degree, get older, get wiser, and then come back to real estate. Came back to real estate in Narrabri, met the love of my life, Brooke. We left, went back to Brisbane, and went back in up there. The Brisbane floods hit, so there was a major shock in the market at about that 6 month period for me. We pulled out, we got married and a fair bit happened up there, actually. That's an important point. But the vast majority of my 14-year career, like 10 years of it, is in the grind. And it's tooth and nail every listing. It's 100 door knocks equals 5 presentations equals 1 listing or something like that. Like, it's all in the grind. We move markets is probably one of the biggest things here, Justin. Like, I did some Aaron Shiner training like ages ago, years and years ago. And the first thing he said was, he went around the room and said, guys, what's your average sale price? What's your average fee? And both of mine were at least 50% lower than anyone else's in the room. And then everyone sort of turned and was like, why are you selling where you're selling? And I was like, oh, it's a great town. Like, I grew up there. And I had all these reasons why I was staying there. But, you know, had a look the last couple of days leading up to this. We as a business, like as one agency in this town, have sold more than in the entire market that I came from 4 years ago. And so, you know, move to a market that's big enough for your aspirations, I think is a great Josh Fegan quote, 100% true. And even, I think within, you don't have to move geographically, you can move price points or suburbs, like just around yourself. But the traction really came, I do remember one key listing that's on a feeder road to a lifestyle area. Everything's 1 to 1.5 mil, and everyone had to drive past this sign. So we listed this property, he didn't want a sign. And I was like, dude, you're going to get a sign out in front of your place. It's going to be big. It's going to be double-sided. He's like, I don't want a sign. It's embarrassing. I don't want my friends to know I'm selling. I was like, mate, one of your friends might buy it. Like, we need a sign in front of your house. In the end, the buyer saw it from the sign. Like, just one of these things where that all worked out. But the house next door had made $950. It was better. The house down the road had been for sale for $995 for like 7 months. We sold ours for $1,065,000 in, I don't know, 30 days, and then rang the suburb and then put stuff in their letterbox. And then we started just listing properties out there one after another. And when people are ringing you for the first time in your career and they're like, listen, haven't really heard of you guys, but I see you did that sale down the road. Can you come and have a chat to us? I wouldn't really say that's being on the shopping list, but you had a toe in the door, and then you get that one, you sell that one. And it just started to take on. I don't really know how it works or how it's worked so fast. It's quite incredible, really.
Such a great answer, mate. There's 2 things there that really struck with me. The one, I think that you stole from Josh Fegan, moved to a market that's big enough for your aspirations. That's really good advice, right? Because it has to match what you want to achieve. But the other one there, which really, really hit home to me, was it's all in the grind. Like that, I don't think there's a truer word that's been spoken around that it is all in that grind. And not that it's about me today, it's about you, but I just want to share something quickly that happened to me on Saturday. I had someone in the car with me at auctions on Saturday, which is quite common. You have people that want to be auctioneers that jump in the car with you to go and see what auctions are like and so on and so forth. And I had 10 auctions on Saturday. We sold 8 of them. You know, Saturday was a pretty good day, like a lot of auctions, a lot of activity, a lot of bidding. And at the end of the day, he made a comment to me and he said, and it was just off the cuff comment, not a criticism at all of him, but he said, gee, that looks so much fun. I'd love to do that. And I thought about it later and I thought, like, it is kind of fun, but that's the real, like, tip of the iceberg stuff. Like, the actual iceberg has been creating a business, growing a business, calling people, getting rejected, following up people that don't want to talk to you, attending meetings they don't want to sit at the table for you. Like, but it is all in the grind. Like, you don't get to that end fun stuff unless you've done the grind to actually set that point up before you get to there.
Yeah, and the more you talk about that, I can reflect that, you know, we hand printed invitations to the open home, folded them into triplicate. I'm out there in the subdivision at 6 a.m, and I'm going to do my Magic 50. Now, think twice before you do a Magic 50 in a 5-acre zone, because you will run 6.2 Ks to deliver 50 of those suckers into the letterboxes. And you're running down a V ditch, up a V ditch, in the letterbox, out. Now, you know, we've got external suppliers doing all this stuff for us. So the revenue creates the ability to do things more efficiently and spread that word further and wider. And it's literally like a snowball. It is.
Yeah. But the point is that you've got to create the revenue before that happens. I think that's the point we miss sometimes, is people want to get to that point of outsourcing, but the grind is the job. Like it's literally the job. It's not anything over and above. It's the job. Like it is what you sort of get compensated to do.
So this this is not.
Yeah.
I don't. On the inside, this is not a glamorous industry. Like this is frigging late hours. You know, on the phone. It's following people up. It's, you know, I suppose appreciating what a seller's going through when they put their home on the market. Having just done it recently, when I was hammering the sign in front of my house, I thought, holy shit, we're going to get judged. People are going to pick our renovation apart. They're going to hammer us because we, yes, chose to use a good builder, but didn't do a DA through council. And I thought this could work out or it could not. Help me reflect on what we put sellers through like all the time. But yeah, it is a grind. And I think often people say, I'd love to get into real estate. Like I love watching the block. And I've got an eye for interior design. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, the one I get in mind is, people tell me I've got a good voice. Cool. That's nice. You know, maybe join the opera. Like I don't know. I don't have a great voice, and I've managed to sort of persevere in spite of that. But I think where you spoke about how that growth happened. So when you kind of had that seminal moment in April 2023, when things do start going, what's your focus there? Like, how do you ride that the best you possibly can to create more opportunity and more opportunity again?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's like, it was another thing from Aaron Shiner from years and years ago. And I think I was running 4 listings at the time. And he said, how would you feel if like 4 more listings came in the door tomorrow? And I said, mate, that has stressed me out because, you know, I can barely handle the amount of inquiry and vendors I'm dealing with now. And he said, okay, so you've got a mental ceiling at 4. You need to raise that to 12. And he said, do not do anything else until you're at 12 listings. And so, you know, you got to, I suppose, raise that mental ceiling. And you know that like hungry hippo game? Yeah, you slam the tail of the hippo and it grabs the ball. I just imagined being like a hungry hippo for every single listing, every single lead that could possibly turn into a sale. Just, I need to get my sign in front of these properties. And then when you do, it's not about collecting listings, it's about turning them over. And so there's a part there that, listing's one thing, but listing for the sake of having a sign in someone's property is really a liability. It's not going to help your business move forward. It'll actually hold you back. There was a few, like I thought, no, this is not for us. And so you drop back because you can just tell their motivation's not there. I think I'll probably get those right 75% of the time, but occasionally you miss one and it sells someone else quite easily and you realise you messed it up. But, you know, what did we do to capture that? I think there was another moment too, Justin, where it was like the first property I sold under Urban X. And this lady sent an email inquiry through. I rang her. The next day, she didn't ring back. I rang her again. And then we played phone tag. I chased this lady. I got her in the end 4 tries. And she said at the end of the call, look, I just want to say I've been inquiring on properties for 18 months in your market. And you're the second agent who's called me back. And I sort of laughed it off. And I said, oh, you can't be serious. Like, what do you mean the second person who's sort of given you 10 minutes of their time? And she said, no, you're the second in 18 months that's rung me. And I thought, okay, there's some basics here we just need to get right. And then we'll set ourselves apart. And so we're pretty strong on that. Like, just follow the basics, call people, follow them up. Hey, just want to let you know the seller's pretty close to accepting a deal on this. Are you guys in, or are you still sitting back? Oh no, thank you. We meant to call you, Stu. We weren't able to get finance, but we really appreciate you, reaching out to us at this late stage. No one does that. And then it sells. Shoot them a text message just for your information. That property you inquired on sold for this price. If there's anything we can do in the future, please let us know. There's nothing that technical about that. I suppose just putting yourself in the shoes of that person and like, what would they like to get back from an agent?
I didn't have hungry hippos on my bingo card that I thought we were going to be talking about today, but good reference. Tamika had a question around that, which you sort of nudged there around, your job's not to collect sign boards, your job is to get them, turn them over. So Tamika asked, average days on market in Tamworth sits between 40 and 70 days, but yours sits at 22 days. How do you achieve that?
I suppose the seller needs to know their market, the market they're coming into, I suppose, first and foremost. We've always been pretty decent at this coming out of our time spent in Narrabri, which is my original market, and especially the years from 2017 to 2019, where there was a 100-year drought. If anyone's based regionally, you'll know how hard that was on regional communities. We would put a property up for a 4-week auction and average like 4.6 inspections in a month. So if I had someone turn up to an open home, it was like, how good is this? I'd get home at on a Saturday afternoon, Brooke would go, how are the opens? Yeah, I ran 6 and I got 3 people through. 2 of them, 2 people turned up to one and 1 to the other. Awesome. Like that was a good day for me. Moved here to Tamworth and it's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 every time. So I see this market as so much easier to get intel, to hand it to the seller. That the intel we had to get before was, listen, Mr. Seller, we've had your property on the net since last week. We've emailed our database. We know there's been 600 inquiries on realestate.com, 600 views, yet no one chose to turn up and have a look at it today. And that does concern me because I know there were buyers out there in the marketplace, but they weren't walking down your footpath. So now we need to have a conversation. We said we might have to have if this result hit us, which is there's 3 things that mean we are where we are. We're either priced out, your presentation's not right, or we haven't promoted this wide enough. Now, I know it's promoted well, your place looks great, the last thing's price. And if something's sold in the market, we were saying, look, here's a sale, here's some data I'm trying to drive in to, I suppose, help them see where their property needs to be priced. So I think I've come from some pretty tough markets to have honed these skills, but the basics just now are simply that. Your property, the best test of your property in the marketplace for whether it's priced well, promoted well, and presented well is your first Saturday. So we're only going to see people through the door, or we're not. When we do, we're going to ask them their opinion. Now, one buy doesn't make a market, but if we're not dealing in negotiations and offers by Saturday afternoon, or at least by midday Monday, then we will need to have a conversation about price. Now, what you do is completely up to you. At no point will I put pressure on you to make any changes, but I will tell you exactly what I think you need to do to get yourself sold. And if there's a change I think I made to where I used to be pretty heavy on that. Dialogue, and it did create a fair gap between me and the seller, and they'd start to put a wall up and you'd ring them and you could sense that they were thinking, oh, here comes Stu again with his cleaver, ready to cut off another appendage. But when I shifted, and it helped to have volume, was I can sit there and say, guys, I'm quite comfortable that 8 out of 10 properties I list will sell. You might be one of the 8, or you might be one of the 2, but I won't treat you any differently. I will tell you exactly what I think you need to do to get yourself sold. And when they tend to lean back at that and go, okay, this guy's on our side, he's just telling us how it is. And then the decisions come after that.
Good. It's pretty simple. Like again, your message harks back that it's a hard business, but it's not a complicated one. And I think the message there is you're being proactive around those discussions. So you're sort of saying, if this happens, we need to be aware of this, rather than it happening and then reacting, and then you're all on the back foot at that moment. There's a couple of questions in the chat. I'll come to team structure and what it roles in a second. Dan has a question. He has name dropped real estate business in there, as Dan likes to do. I don't know if you've seen this one, but he says, you've gone from writing 400K at Ray White's, which he sure took pleasure writing that in the chat, to now a high 1 millions in your own business, and all within 2 years. What did you do in the first 12 months to level up so much?
I suppose, what do we do in the first 12 months to level up so much? I've given real estate like a fair portion of my life, like 12, 13, 14 years, and I've constantly spent I spend a lot of time analysing in the car in between conversations how could things have gone better. But one thing here that sort of comes, it's not got anything to do with real estate, but my wife Brooke is heavily involved in this business now. So as a couple, forever we've had separate careers, and there's kids, in the middle of that, and we've always been pulling in different directions for, Brooke's marketing career, my real estate career. I've got an inspection, well, I've got a conference, and we'll pull it apart. And we do need flexibility in our lives now that we've got kids and there's so much to do with that, this is a very busy life, but it does have flexibility if you can allow yourself to create it. So Brooke's in here now, and I will attribute a lot of our success to us being a team on this, rather than sort of being on different sides of the camp and driving our own ships. She has the ability to call me out on my bullshit in a way that no one else can. And I think the phrase probably Dan's looking for here is like letting go to grow. So there were conversations back at the start of this where Brooke's like, right, I'm going to grab some leads, give us the phone book, let's make some phone calls. And my thoughts were, oh, this is Stu, like I'm the real estate agent here, like I need to be making those phone calls. And which is ridiculous. Like anyone who's got a keen staff member saying, I want to do some cold prospecting, who says no, like probably needs to give himself an uppercut. So then, Brooke starts prospecting and gets a lead, and, I praise it and we list it and we sell it. And, I'm very slow, but I'm like, okay, this might work. I can get other people to help me do things. So, Brooke started to take a strong role in the business, but then we noticed, I think the first time we started to get a bit busy, school holidays hit, Brooke had to go home and obviously run the childcare side of the family, and the business fell apart. I went from listing and negotiating back to emailing solicitors and doing all the admin. And so we're like, right, Dan's been telling me for 6 months we ought to grow the team. Maybe we should grow the team. And so what's that saying? When the student's ready, the teacher arrives, or something like that. Yeah. So the student was ready. And then we brought Courtney into the business, our sales associate. So she'll handle a lot of that admin legwork, ad hoc inspections, shares the load on open homes on Saturdays with us as well. And now there's 3 of us. And really, like there's a fourth staff member kicking off with Sam next week, actually, which we're really looking forward to. I think that unit, operations manager, admin, sales, another sales associate, I reckon, we'll add 50 to 70% next year, what we're doing, I think.
You might have sparked a lot of really hard discussions that people are going to jump off this call and go and ask their wives and husbands why they've never prospected for them. I might ask my wife that. I'm not sure how that conversation would go, but you've got a very, very, very good one there, and obviously integral to the success of the business. So around that kind of team structure and roles, everyone's roles pretty defined as to what they do.
So role clarity was a key topic at XCon, and we can define our roles a lot more out of that chat. Oh, sorry, the guy's name escapes me. I just remember that he had the faux pas on the microphone. The AFL presenter, he spoke. The guy who played for the Brisbane Lions.
Oh, Alistair Lynch.
Lynchy, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the role clarity they had obviously helped them win a premiership, and that's critical on a sporting field, and it could help us here too. But yeah, we are moving towards defining these roles a little bit more. I've got to stop myself every time I turn to the side to see if the player's there to catch the ball, i.e. has that email been sent to the solicitor. I love being CC'd on stuff because it just means if I've asked something to be done and I've seen it come through, I can just hit delete and it's out of my mind. But maybe it should, if I had the trust there, I just wouldn't even give it that second thought anymore. So there's growth in that space for us for sure.
Yeah, that saying he spoke about a lot was know your role, accept your role, play your role. It's so true, right? Because it's knowing your role first and foremost. It's accepting that's what your usage of your time is, and then playing your role. So you mentioned there, Stu, just change speed for a second. You have three girls.
Yes.
Between 4 and 8, is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Yep. And you mentioned to me last week, not to steal your punchline, but you mentioned you have a firearms license.
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
And a full gun cabinet.
Okay. Thanks. Excellent. Thanks for clearing that up, mate. Appreciate that.
You're way too old, by the way, Justin. Are you married? Are you?
I'm married. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I've got a 4-year-old daughter as well. So yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not sure it feels like congratulations most days, but appreciate it. How does that work, mate? Because I know that that's a hectic time, and obviously Brooke plays an incredibly significant role in all of that as well. But the word that gets kicked around so much in our industry is around balance. Everyone wants balance, or they're searching for balance. What does balance mean to you, and Brooke, for that matter?
There was someone pointed out something to me pretty early, which was like a lot of the time spent with your family is doing mundane stuff. Like it's getting brekkie, changing nappies, bathing kids, drying kids off with towels or whatever, putting them to bed. So I think if you can try and get as much connection and quality out of those mundane moments, like that's not run of the mill stuff, that's life. And there's a way you can do that where it's like, oh, I've got to do X, Y, Z so I can get out the door and get to work, which presents it as a chore. And there's a way where you can really seek to connect in those moments. And I think that's just has a multiplier effect in that you're making use of the mundane to create like quality time with your kids. I'm definitely not a poster child for balance in a career at all, but I feel like we've been on 110% throttle for 2 years now. We wouldn't be on 110 now for sure, but Dan's analogy, if anyone isn't aware, Dan's a pilot. He has a plane, flies places.
No, I've never heard that before. Never come across that. Interesting. No, fascinating.
Ask him about it. You should ask him.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to talk to me about it. Yeah.
But the analogy there is obviously for a plane to take off, every engine needs to be running at 110%, until you're at a safe altitude. And real estate's the same. There's a point there where you just got to put your head down and go. But there's going to be a point here soon where I've also got to go, okay, Dad, like, get over yourself and start to prioritize your kids. So I do a lot of podcasts about real estate, about investing, and I was in the gym the other morning and I thought, okay, a few of those areas of my life are panning out pretty well. Maybe I should start to listen to some experts on parenting. And I found a really good one. I can't remember his name. He runs a thing called the Fathering Project in Australia, and I've been listening to his stuff. And a good one of his recently was you got to get home with enough gas in the tank to be a dad at the end of the day, because if you're rolling in at 7 or 6:45 and your phone's still going, and you may as well not be there. So yeah, I'm quite fluent when I'm talking about price reductions and days on market. You can clearly see I'm starting to struggle here, Justin, because it's something I'm trying to work on.
On that, what you just said there, I read something at the start of the year and it stuck in my brain like vividly. And they said that when you're looking at balance, you've got to be really careful that you don't go to work every day and give everyone at work the best version of you, the happiest version, the smiliest version, the more engaged version, the clever version, the charming version, and then go home and serve your family leftovers. And that absolutely has stuck with me, because it's so true, right? Like we go to work and we give everyone the very best that we have, and then we get home and we just give whatever's left in the tank. So I think what you said there around leaving us get enough gas in the tank is pretty important. But even what you said there around the mundane, like you said, this is life, right? Like this is actually the grind. It's bathing the kids, and it's going to the coffee shop for a walk, and it's dealing with the meltdowns, and it's whatever's going on. We had one this morning. I can't remember what it was. I didn't want to get our books out of the car, so that was World War III. But this is life. This is is what it is. So when it comes time for you to spend more time for the kids, does that mean that business structure wise will change for you? Do you think it'll be more people in part of your team? Is that an aspiration you have, or what's the direction that you want to steer it towards?
I think it's easy to say if we add more people, if we do this, then I'll have more time. But at some point, you've got to realise that someday may never come, and you've just got to schedule this stuff in. So for the first 6 months of this year, from the 10th of January till mid-June or start of July, I was 6 days a week the whole way through. And like burnout for me, I'll get these inklings I'm starting to get a bit tired, and then I'll ignore it. And then 4 weeks later, I'm completely cooked. And I'll be staring at my computer screen. And so this has been a piece, like Alexander Phillips talks about working in 90-day sprints. And, we implemented that last year and had a great break in October, had an awesome run to Christmas, had a great break in December, And then a few things came together for us around Easter, which I chose then to effectively work through the Easter holiday. And we made a heap of commitments personally, like we bought another house, we had to sell a house, we had an office we bought, we had to fit it out, and there's so much on our plate that 6 months straight, like just a shell of myself by the end of it. It's just poor planning, but it's another symptom of this 110% throttle thing, just trying to get your plane, up to 30,000 feet. So, but yeah, more people will help, but more people will also create more capacity and will create your ability to serve more clients, and then you'll be just as busy, just with more people, running around for you. So you just got to schedule it, I think, is the key.
Yep. Dan asked around the challenges around building a team.
Yeah, certainly. Like initially, Southwell Property is some bloke who used to work for Ray White who's having a crack on his own, renting some 2-bit office above a chemist in Peel Street. Like, it's pretty hard to get people to buy into what you're doing at that point. Like, I think a lot of people will hold their coffee and lean back and go, good on you, mate. I hope it works out for you. Yeah, well, if anyone I know is looking to sell, I'll send them your way. And you're like, yeah, awesome, thanks, mate. And if you're trying to recruit through that period where you're a bit of a nobody, it's challenging. So that's changed too. The snowball that's created all this momentum has also brought a few people to us to say, hey, Stu, my other half's really considering a change into real estate. She's been 15 years a teacher. Can she have a chat with you? Absolutely. And so we've had people reach out to us and want to have that conversation. And so, the momentum is helping us in a recruitment perspective. The whole conversation around, do we pull in people who are green and then train them up, or do we focus on more established existing agents and bring them in with all their problems and their restraint clauses? What the right answer there is, I don't know, but certainly open to, I suppose, growth in a sense, but I also don't want to be like a drag car and reach 300 miles per hour in 10 seconds flat and then wonder what the hell just happened. I think if we can be patient about growth, it'll happen in a more manageable way. And as a business unit at the moment, there's 4 of us plus PM. We've kicked off just recently, so we're sort of dedicating a portion of the revenue to a cold start in property management with like a really highly skilled property manager who's been in the business for a long time. And so, that's an investment in the future as well. But I just steadily, Justin, but geez, it's happened fast too.
Yeah, well, it sort of has, but hasn't, right? Like, it's been slow, but then really quickly as it goes. So it's funny how that sort of works out. We had a conversation last week and you mentioned around some goals you put on paper. I don't know if you remember this conversation, whether you have them or you bought them. Do you have them?
They're in my office next door. Yeah, I should have grabbed them. Yeah, I did. Do
you remember what they were, or do you mind sharing them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the page is basically a vision I wrote, and I think Brooke was involved in this as well. When we're back in Narrabri and we hit a point in where we're like, we're not going to live in this town forever. We're going to move to Tamworth, and it was in that COVID lockdown period where everyone did some navel gazing and worked out where to go. So, and
this is roughly 4 years ago, give or take, 4.5 years ago.
Yeah, about 4 years ago. And, it was, we now live with our 3 daughters in a beautiful home in East Tamworth. I drive a white 4-wheel drive. I'm a successful real estate agent. We do XYZ with our kids, and we've got friends who come over, and we love our home and all this sort of stuff. And everything has worked out except for 2 things. The one that hasn't was we sell 3 properties a month. So, I think, I don't know, what we're about 10 or 12 at the moment. And we don't have a border collie, we have a cavoodle.
Well, technically you do sell 3. You just sell 3 and then some more. So that one's right. I also have a border collie that I'm willing to sell you very cheap if you want one. But any plans for a border collie? Not on the radar?
Look, we had a border collie growing up, but I think I was really against smaller dogs because I'm just from that sort of rural background where a small dog was a joke. But there's a good thing about small dogs, like they don't bark as loud, they don't dig as big a hole, they can't really chew hard things as much as a big dog can. And also there's less to pick up around the yard. So there's a few pluses there I've learned through experience. But the power, like Alex Jordan is a massive believer in having a vision, but not just saying, I have a goal to do X, Y, Z, but to then frame it in a certain way to say, my name is, Justin Nickerson, and I run the #1 auctioneering business on the Eastern Seaboard. We have over 80 staff, and every day of my life is amazing. Like, to read that is different to say, I want to have X.
Yeah.
And so you're putting yourself in the shoes. There's something weird about it. I'm not a big believer in the universe and fate and destiny and all that, but when you write these things down, I know last year I had a picture on the wall of the car I wanted to buy, and when I put it up there, I thought I felt like a bit of a dick, because who wants to work their butt off for the sake of a material possession? But then within a few months, I'm driving it, and there's a powerful thing about having a vision, having a goal, writing it down, reading it. It's quite spooky, yeah.
So two quick ones to finish. If you had to write your goals 4 years in the future now, what would they look like?
It would be built very heavily around, having a really systemized team and a business, and being, I suppose, the manager leader, not so much the driver of the ship, I suppose. I think like the next stage for me is mentoring and passing on what we do and how we do it to other people, because I feel like I've had a natural attraction towards like training people, and if I know how to do something, I can pass it on to someone else and they can get a benefit out of that as well. Like, it's so fulfilling, rather than just holding on to it yourself. I don't know, like, it's when the momentum started, when it got a runaway, I think one of the reasons I forego I skip that holiday in Easter was, is this going to last? Like, I've got like 10 people a week calling me saying, hey, you sold a house near me, can you come and have a chat to us? I've never met them. They might have received something from us, but then we list that home and sell it 3 weeks later, and I'm like, is this real? Is this really happening? Mm-hmm. So I've got head noises that it won't last. So I'm like, it's like I'm at the buffet and they're about to shut, and I'm just scooping as much ice cream as I possibly can. But I've probably got to change that and go, no, this is the new normal, and we can build from this, and other people can join our team and enjoy the growth as well.
Not to go all deep psychologist on that, but do you think it's imposter syndrome, or do you think it's not wanting to take it for granted, or? There's
a couple of things there. Like, when people say, geez, you guys are doing well, don't feel guilty about it, because I'm thinking it's my time. Like, I've done my time, and at some point, like, if you're going to be an artist, someone's going to pay $1,000 for one of your paintings one day. You just got to keep at it. So we've kept at it. So I feel like I've done the yards, but then there's more to go. But 100% the imposter part is there. Like, when people slap you on the back and say you're going so well, I feel like slightly odd about it. Well, I feel very odd about it. I feel I wish you could have the success in real estate but be anonymous at the same time, but it doesn't work like that. Like,
yeah,
this is coming from a guy who bought a couple of thousand fridge magnets with his face on them and then didn't post them out like 3 or 4 years ago.
Really?
I binned them. Like, I had big issues about people knowing what I do, but this might sound really strange. If that doesn't connect with someone out there, I'd be surprised, because there is a hesitancy, I suppose, to put yourself out there, because someone might say no. Someone might say you look funny or you're a dickhead, but there might be 70 others who'll go, he's having a crack, and that was a big thing for us in this town. A few key people reached out who I'd never spoken to and said, mate, I see you stepped out on your own. Look, it must be tough. We did that 15 years ago, and it's going really well for us. I just want to say, well done. It obviously says something about you. And then you're like, oh, thanks, mate. There's no money in the bank at the moment, but do you need to sell something? No? Okay. Thanks for the support. See you later.
I think if we connect with the majority of people, mate, I think you'd be surprised on that. Well, actually, you wouldn't be surprised because you live it. But yeah, I think that would connect the majority of people. So the last question for me, mate, is if you had to impart one bit of advice to anyone that might be listening as to if they want to emulate you and what you've achieved, what would the lasting bit of advice be?
I think this is going to go back to the Ray White days, and Brian White is a pretty old school sort of figurehead of the industry. He said something that stayed with me for a long time, which was like, never forget your place in the transaction as the real estate agent. So we're here to assist buyers and guide them and inform the seller so that they can make a good decision. We don't own the house. It's not up to us to chuck toss your toys out of the cot if a buyer pulls out on a deal. Like, people out there are making big decisions, and we're the facilitator. So to not forget that, I think, is really important. And there's been some moments where, in 3 months into this stint with UrbanX, in December, I had a key listing pulled the day before auction, and it was devastating. Like, we were low on coin. I really needed this settlement to land in late January, early February. They had some really strong personal reasons that just hit them that meant they had to stay in this house, which only just became apparent at the 11th hour. And we copped that on the chin and just said, guys, I get it. Forget about this. Is about you. It's your house, and if it's not right now, we'll sell it later. Now that was hard to do, but we just since sold the house across the road for a street record, and they recommended it. So it comes back. But yeah, if that's answered your question, just know your spot in the transaction. Be a good person.
Brilliant advice, mate. Brian White's incredible. Doesn't have a plane though, does he?
No airplane. Doesn't look.
Actually, probably does. He's probably got a private jet. I'd be guessing, actually, to be fair, but doesn't have his pilot's license. He does. There you go. Dan would know. But he does have a pilot's license, I'm sure. Yeah.
There's a growth piece here for everyone. Like, you can fly yourself around, but eventually you've got a chauffeur, don't you? When you really make it.
There you go. I've bought 2 or 3 private jets, Dan says. So
for the record.
Good to go, mate. For the record, yeah, for the record. Stu, thank you so much, mate. You've been incredible. I know personally I've written down a half page of notes just from while I was talking to you. I'm sure others have as well. So, mate, thank you, and all the very best for continued success for you, Brooke, and the girls. By the looks of it, mate, you don't get much of a vote or a say in that household. You probably won't in the coming years. So you're doing really well, mate, to hang in there. But, mate, thank you again. You're a legend.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Get out there and kill it.
Yes. Thanks.